used to believe that in order to be seen, in order to live a life that meant something, I had to succeed, not just enough success, but something dazzling, impressive, something that would prove I was worth taking seriously. So, I started a business. Back then, I didn't have a very detailed plan. What I had was passion, excitement, and a bit of confidence that, in hindsight, I think was more naivete. I opened an online shop selling handmade goods and crafts. I rented a cozy little workspace in a building just outside of town. I stayed up late and got up early, teaching myself everything from packaging, photography, and marketing to editing videos and writing product descriptions. For a while, it felt like things were going right. I got my first few orders, received kind reviews, messages of appreciation from customers. All of it made me believe I was on the right track. But success didn't stay long. The cost of rent, supplies, tools, and software climbed higher each month. New competitors appeared, more polished, more affordable, faster. Meanwhile, I was exhausted. I couldn't take on more orders. But I couldn't stop either. Terrified I'd lose momentum, I kept pushing myself to upload content on a strict schedule. But I ran out of inspiration. I worked in silence, too tired to answer texts, too anxious to sleep well. It all began to feel like a tightening net, one that I had cast around myself. But I kept going, because I thought failure simply wasn't an option. Until one morning, while labeling a package, my hands started shaking, my vision blurred. I collapsed onto the floor of that tiny workspace, so drained I couldn't stand back up. It wasn't the first time I felt tired, but it was the first time I couldn't pretend I was okay. That day, I decided to stop. I gave up the rented space. I moved everything into a small corner of my home. I stopped forcing myself to upload on schedule. I turned down offers from brands I had once dreamed of working with. I began to ask myself, if I keep going like this, who am I doing it for? I thought about all the advice I'd received, how I needed to hire, scale, outsource, but none of that fit me. I'm a sensitive person, someone who absorbs stress deeply. I need quiet, I need room to breathe. I need to live, not just survive between deadlines and expectations. Not everyone understood. Some told me I was throwing away my chances. Others said nothing, but I saw the disappointment in their eyes. For a while, I believed them. I told myself I was weak, that I wasn't strong enough to make it. But then I realized, my sensitivity wasn't a flaw. It was just part of me. A version of human that needs more time to recover. A kind of person who doesn't thrive under non-stop pressure. And that version of me deserved kindness, too. After I brought everything home, the silence hit me in a new way. I no longer heard the echo of other tenants walking the halls, the hum of the heater from the rented space, or the distant buzz of a city moving forward without me. Now it was just me. A tiny corner filled with my art supplies, boxes of unsold products, and the echo of my own thoughts. At first, the quiet felt like failure. I felt small, like I had taken a step backward in life. The corners of the internet I used to frequent were still filled with people scaling up, launching brands, securing sponsorships. Meanwhile, I was making peace with a slower pace. Even as my income dropped and my views declined, there were days I wondered if I had made a mistake. But something unexpected began to happen. In that quiet, cramped corner of my home, something soft and beautiful started to return, my creativity. Without the constant pressure to post, to market, to perform, I started creating again simply because I wanted to. I picked up my brushes and painted without photographing the result. I packaged Etsy orders with care, even if there were fewer of them. I filmed short videos for Patreon, not because I had to, but because I genuinely wanted to share something with the people who had stayed with me. There was a sweetness to this slower rhythm. And in that rhythm, I began to feel more like myself again. I realized I had been measuring my worth through numbers, orders, followers, revenue, and all the things that could be tracked, compared, and graphed. But the truth was, the most valuable things in my life were the ones that couldn't be measured. My health was returning. My heart no longer raced every time I opened my inbox. I could sit down with my tea in the morning without a mental checklist chasing me into the day. I even started to sleep better. It wasn't easy, far from it. I had responsibilities, bills, a growing family. I was expecting our first child. And that alone brought on waves of anxiety. I knew I would need to pull back even more once our baby arrived. And it terrified me, but at the same time, it grounded me, made everything clearer. It was in this season of change that I began to think deeply about values. What did I truly value? Not what the world told me to value, not what the algorithm rewarded, but what I valued, and what I was willing, and not willing, to give up in order to protect it. I realized I wasn't failing. I was choosing. I wasn't lazy. I was being intentional. And yes, there were consequences. Views kept dropping. My income declined to levels that made budgeting a monthly challenge. Collaboration offers dried up. Some people quietly unfollowed. I noticed. But what stayed with me were the moments that brought peace. The unexpected joys. The way my partner and I started taking walks more often. The way I had the space to daydream again. The way I felt present, finally. Truly present, with my own life. Some of the people closest to me still didn't understand. And that's okay. We are all wired differently. Some people thrive on the hustle. I admire them. I used to wish I could be like them. But I'm not. And the more I resisted that truth, the more harm I caused myself. The quiet shift was not just about doing less. It was about unlearning the belief that I had to suffer to deserve good things. That I had to earn my right to rest. That I wasn't worthy unless I was exhausted. Letting go of that was one of the most liberating and painful experiences of my life. And it taught me this: you can rebuild success in a way that aligns with your soul. It just might not look like the success you once chased. The day I held my baby in my arms for the first time, something inside me fell silent, and something else awakened. All the noise that used to fill my mind, analytics, strategies, 5-year plans, suddenly faded to the background. It wasn't that they stopped existing. I still had to pay bills, still had to keep the lights on. But in that moment, nothing felt more real than the tiny breath of this new life resting on my chest. And I knew everything was going to change. I had told myself that I was ready for this pause, for this slowdown, but when the time actually came, I was surprised at how hard it was to let go, to stop posting regularly, to not reply to every message, to watch my shop slow to a trickle. I felt the ghost of the old me, ambitious, energized, eager to prove herself, haunting the edges of this new life. I mourned her. In a strange way, she was so strong. She got me through the darkest nights of building something from nothing. She believed she could do everything, and for a while, she did. But I wasn't her anymore. Now, I was learning how to live in this softer body, a more tired body, a body that carried another life inside it, then carried it into the world. A body that needed more rest, more patience, more grace. For a while, I kept waiting to bounce back. I thought maybe after a few weeks, I would feel ready again, to make things, to promote, to grow. But something deeper inside me was asking, do you really want to go back to the way it was? The truth was, I didn't. I didn't want to return to the rush. I didn't want to sacrifice my evenings, my meals, my peace of mind just to feel productive. I didn't want to keep living in a way that treated my body like a machine. Motherhood broke something open in me, a tenderness I didn't know I had. And in that opening, I finally understood why I had struggled so much all those years, why burnout had hit me so hard, why stress lived in my bones, why hustle culture made me feel like I was quietly drowning. I'm a sensitive person. That's not weakness, it's not fragility, it's a way of being. And it took me so long to accept that. For so many years, I joked about it. I made myself the punchline in rooms full of high achievers. Oh, I'm just a bit soft. I'd laugh. I'm not as tough as the rest of you. But deep down, it hurt. Because I thought I had to toughen up to be worthy. To deserve anything at all. And now, holding my child in the stillness of the morning, I could finally see it clearly. My sensitivity is not something to overcome. It is something to honor, to work with, to build a life around. So I stopped trying to be someone I'm not. I stopped feeling guilty about the quiet. I started showing up in ways that felt aligned, even if they were small. Even if no one noticed. Some days, I package a few Etsy orders while the baby naps. Some days, I write a single paragraph in my journal or film a few soft clips for a video. Other days, I do nothing at all, except be present. This pace is slower, but it is real. It is mine. I used to think fulfillment was about doing more, being more, but now I understand. Fulfillment is about enoughness. It's about breathing and knowing you are exactly where you need to be. Yes, money is tighter. Yes, the future feels uncertain. But I trust myself more than I ever have. Not because I have the answers, but because I've learned how to listen. To my body, to my heart, to the quiet voice that tells me what really matters. And in this new chapter, I'm not chasing success. I'm building a life, one soft day at a time. If there's one thing I've come to realize through all my failed business attempts, it's this: not every failure is a loss. Some failures are just detours, unexpected turns that lead you closer to who you really are. I used to think that in order to deserve good things, I had to work myself to the edge, that I had to hustle hard, always do more, always be more. I believed that slowing down meant I was falling behind. But in the end, I lost more than I gained. I traded away my peace, my health, and the gentle way I used to carry myself through life. There was a moment, standing in front of the mirror, when I barely recognized the girl staring back. She looked tired, anxious, guilty for not doing enough. And in that moment, I made the decision to stop. Not to give up, but to come home to myself. And if you've made it this far in my story, maybe you're somewhere along a similar path. Maybe you're wondering if you're behind, if you're making the wrong choices, or if it's okay to take a step back. If that's you, let me say this, as a friend, from someone who's been there, and is still figuring things out. You don't have to prove your worth by burning out. Your value doesn't come from how much you produce or how hard you hustle. You are already enough, simply because you exist. Because you care. Because you're trying your best. Healing is not a destination. It's a way of living. It looks like learning to rest without guilt. Saying no to things that no longer align. Paying attention to your sleep, your breath, your smile. It's in the little things. Every day, let your life make room for simplicity. You don't need so much to be okay. You just need enough to breathe. You might not be as wealthy or as on top as others, but if you can wake up in the morning with peace in your heart, that's already a kind of wealth. Be kind to yourself, especially on the days you feel undeserving. Because no one on this planet is more worthy of your love and compassion than you. Especially when you're struggling, especially when you're growing. I don't know where you are in your journey, but if you're brave enough to be honest with yourself, if you're trying to build a life that feels more real, then I promise, you're doing just fine. I know not everyone can afford to slow down. Some of us are just trying to survive. But if and when the moment comes, when you have a little space to choose differently, I hope you take it. Even just for a while. Even just to breathe. Thank you, truly, for listening to my story. For staying until the end. Thank you, for letting me be honest. For holding space for all the messiness of figuring things out. Wherever you are, whatever you're going through, I hope you treat yourself with the gentleness you've always deserved. I hope you know you don't have to keep pushing so hard just to feel worthy. We're all learning how to live, and there is no one right way. But if you never give up on yourself, then you've never truly failed. So here's to slower days, to quiet mornings, to learning, unlearning, and becoming. And maybe, just maybe, we'll meet again someday. Each of us a little softer, a little more whole. With all my heart, thank you, Yellow Heart.